Let's jump right in. Today we're taking a deep dive into Saudi Arabia's cultural heritage,
Sounds fascinating.
but not the stuff you see on every postcard. We're going deeper than the usual stories.
Right.
Those hidden gems and those little surprises that make you realize how much more there is to a culture when you look closer.
Yeah, it's easy to get stuck with those first impressions.
Exactly.
With Saudi Arabia, a lot of people only think about oil or the news headlines.
Yeah.
But there's a whole world of art and traditions and centuries of history that we don't always see.
It's true. And it's a shame because when you start exploring that world, it's amazing how much you find. It's like this incredible tapestry of art, music, poetry, things that have been passed down for generations and are still so alive today.
Yeah.
What really struck me, though, is the way they're finding this balance between holding on to the past and moving towards the future.
That is a key point. It's not one or the other. A great example is Nabati poetry. It's a unique oral tradition that's been around for centuries.
Wow.
It's almost like a living historical record. I love that.
You can trace the changes in society, the landscapes, how people felt, even the values of different times, all through these poems.
I've always loved the idea of oral histories, but to think that some of those poems could be hundreds of years old, it's like holding a piece of the past.
Right.
But how does that translate into today's world?
Well, there's a real effort to make sure these voices from the past aren't forgotten. Take the revival of Sadu weaving, for example.
Yeah.
It's the traditional Bedouin textile art that was honestly in danger of disappearing.
Oh, wow.
But now you see young designers using those same geometric patterns and those vibrant colors in modern fashion and home decor.
So cool.
It's a way to keep that heritage alive while giving it a fresh new look.
I love that. It's not just about keeping those traditions in a museum. It's about making them relevant for a new generation.
Right.
And speaking of things that have stood the test of time, Saudi Arabia has some really breathtaking archaeological sites. Places that feel like they transport you back centuries. Oh, absolutely. Places like Al-Ula, this ancient Nabatean city carved right into those sandstone cliffs. Imagine walking through those tombs and temples knowing people walked those same paths thousands of years ago.
It gives me chills just thinking about it.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating is that they're not just preserving these sites, they're actively restoring them, bringing them back to their former glory.
That's the kind of detail that gets me so excited. It's one thing to read about an ancient city, but to think that they're meticulously putting it back together piece by piece. It makes history come to life.
You got it. And it's not just Al-Ula. You have Diriyah, the birthplace of the first Saudi state, which is being carefully restored. These sites are becoming major tourist attractions, drawing people from all over the world and really sparking interest in Saudi Arabia's history and culture.
It's putting them on the map in a new way.
Definitely.
And it's not just the famous places, right? I was reading about the rock art in Juba and Shuweimas. They're not as well known, but they give you this amazing glimpse into prehistoric cultures that were there long before the civilizations we normally think of.
Right. Those carvings are like puzzle pieces from a forgotten past. They show scenes from daily life animals, even abstract symbols that archaeologists are still trying to understand. It makes you realize how much history is layered in this land, just waiting to be discovered.
It's mind-boggling. And speaking of stories, Saudi culture is so full of captivating legends and tales, kind that are passed down for generations.
Yeah. Every culture has its own myths and legends, but in Saudi Arabia, they feel especially powerful.
Right.
They often teach moral lessons, explain natural events, or give you a glimpse into the values and beliefs that shaped their society.
Do you have a favorite example? One that really stands out?
One that always comes to mind is the legend of the Seven Sisters of Al-Ula Mountain. It's a tragic story about seven sisters who were running from danger and called on the mountain to protect them.
What happened?
Well, the mountain split open and encased them within its rocky embrace. To this day, you can see the seven peaks standing tall, a testament to the power of these stories.
Wow. It's a powerful image. It makes you wonder how those ancient tales still resonate today in our modern world with all its technology.
Right. It's interesting, isn't it? You'd think that with TV and movies and social media, those old ways of storytelling would fade away.
Yeah.
But in Saudi Arabia, they're actually finding new life. You see these legends adapted into TV shows. They inspire art installations. They even pop up in social media campaigns. It's proof that these stories still have the power to captivate and connect people.
It's like those ancient voices are finding new ways to speak to us, bridging the gap between the past and the present. And we can't forget about the heart of it all, the Arabic language. It feels like it plays such a crucial role in preserving Saudi heritage.
Oh, absolutely. It's more than just a way to communicate. It's deeply tied to their cultural identity.
So true.
There's this understanding that if you lose the language, you lose a part of yourself. You sever that connection to history and traditions.
That makes a lot of sense. So how are they working to make sure that doesn't happen? It seems like a tough job in a world where languages are constantly changing and being influenced by so many things.
They've taken a multifaceted approach combining traditional methods with modern technology.
Interesting.
So on one hand, you have language academies that are dedicated to studying and preserving classical Arabic.
Dedicated to keeping the language alive.
Exactly. They're like the guardians of the language, making sure it stays pure and rich.
Like creating a living archive for future generations.
Exactly. And then you have the education system. Arabic is mandatory in schools from a young age.
So they're learning it from day one.
Right. It's about building a love for the language early on, making it part of who they are.
Makes sense. What about technology? How does that fit in?
Well, there's been this huge surge in Arabic language learning apps, making it easier for people of all ages and from anywhere in the world to learn the language.
So it's accessible to anyone.
Exactly. It's like they're creating a global classroom for Arabic, helping it thrive in this digital age.
That's really smart. They're not stopping there, are they?
No, they're also creating digital dictionaries, online databases of the language, and even using artificial intelligence to analyze and translate texts. It's all about making Arabic more accessible than ever before.
It's really incredible how they're combining ancient traditions and cutting-edge technology to create a safety net for their language.
It really shows their commitment to preserving their heritage. It reminds us that heritage isn't just about old artifacts and monuments. It's about living traditions, stories, and the language that ties it all together.
That's beautifully said. It makes you think about the things we value in our own cultures, doesn't it?
It does. It challenges us to think about the traditions and languages that make us who we are and how we can protect them in a world that's constantly changing.
It seems like Saudi Arabia is setting a powerful example. They're not just preserving their heritage, they're finding ways to make it relevant and engaging today.
Exactly. It's about bridging the gap between the past and the present, honoring tradition, while embracing innovation and finding creative ways to share their culture with the world.
What an inspiring journey this has been.
Yeah.
And we've only just scratched the surface. We still have so much to explore, from their amazing food to the changing roles of women and those ambitious plans they have for the future.
Just so much more to uncover.
Absolutely. So stick with us as we continue our deep dive into Saudi Arabia's cultural heritage. There's a lot more to come.
I can't wait. You know, as we've been talking about how Saudi Arabia is preserving its heritage, it's making me think about how we often view cultural heritage as something static, like it's stuck in time.
Yeah.
Like something you only see in a museum.
Right. It's behind glass.
But what we're seeing here is something much more dynamic.
It feels alive.
Yes, exactly.
So they're finding ways to bring these traditions into the present
Right.
without losing sight of their history.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
How do you think they're doing it?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is the development of cultural tourism.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's not just about bringing tourists to see the historical sites. It's about giving them a chance to actually experience the culture firsthand.
I see. So it's more than just snapping a photo in front of a mosque or an ancient ruin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the little things, the everyday customs, the food.
Right. The heart of it all.
Exactly. Imagine taking part in a traditional Bedouin coffee ceremony, or learning the art of calligraphy, or even trying your hand at sadu weaving.
Those are experiences that stay with you.
They do, and I bet it's beneficial for both the traveler and the local community.
Absolutely. For tourists, it's a chance to see the world differently, to appreciate a culture that's not their own.
And to break down stereotypes.
Exactly. And for the local communities, it's an opportunity to share their traditions, to earn a living, and to feel a sense of pride in their heritage.
It's a win-win situation. It seems like a really smart strategy for a country that's trying to open up to the world.
It is. It's about building bridges between cultures, showing the world that there's so much more to Saudi Arabia than what we see in the news.
Exactly. Speaking of things that bridge cultures, have you ever noticed how music has this amazing power to connect people?
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't matter what language you speak.
Music is a universal language.
It evokes emotions.
Right.
It tells stories. It creates this shared experience that words sometimes can't.
I agree. And when it comes to music, Saudi Arabia has a really diverse range of sounds.
Yeah, I'm curious about the musical traditions that we might not be familiar with. What are some of those?
Well, one that stands out is the mizmar.
The mizmar.
Yes. It's a traditional woodwind instrument that's often played at weddings and celebrations. It has this haunting, beautiful sound that's so distinct.
I can almost hear it now. Must be something else to hear a lot.
It really is. And then you have the oud.
The oud, I've heard of that.
It's a pear-shaped string instrument that's really popular throughout the Middle East. It has a rich melodic sound, and it's used in both classical and modern Arabic music.
I love the sound of the oud. It's so soulful.
Is there much of a contemporary music scene in Saudi Arabia?
There is. It's actually growing quite a bit.
Really?
Yes. There's this movement to blend traditional instruments like the oud and the mizmar with modern styles.
So they're creating something new while honoring the old.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to hear. And there are a lot of talented young musicians who are experimenting with different genres and really pushing boundaries.
It sounds like the music scene is reflecting that same energy we've been talking about, this blend of tradition and modernity.
It is, and it's finding a bigger audience thanks to the growing number of music festivals and cultural events happening all over the country.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's creating opportunities for local and international artists to connect and collaborate and share their music with more people.
I love that. It's like this global conversation happening through music. Speaking of cultural exchange, let's talk about storytelling for a minute. We touched on the legends and myths earlier. But what about the modern ways that stories are being told in Saudi Arabia? That's a great question. Storytelling is such a basic part of human culture, and it keeps evolving as times change. In Saudi Arabia, you see this evolution in everything from TV and film to online platforms.
It's like those ancient traditions of oral storytelling are finding new life in the digital age.
Exactly. You see historical stories woven into modern TV dramas.
Keeping those connections alive.
Yes. And then you have social media being used to share traditional folk tales and proverbs with younger generations.
I love that.
And there's even a growing animation industry that's creating films based on ancient myths and legends, bringing those stories to life in a whole new way.
That's so creative. It's a way to keep those stories relevant and engaging for new audiences.
It is. And it's not just about entertainment. It's about passing on values, sharing history.
Keeping those traditions alive.
Yes. And creating a sense of shared identity. It's about understanding who we are and where we come from.
And those stories, they really shape how we see the world, don't they?
They do.
They teach us about right and wrong. They shape our beliefs about ourselves and others.
They even influence our hopes for the future.
Exactly. And in a world that can sometimes feel divided and disconnected, those shared stories can be so powerful.
I agree. They can build empathy and understanding between people.
Speaking of understanding, there's something we haven't really talked about yet. The role of language in shaping a culture's identity.
Right.
We talked earlier about the importance of preserving the Arabic language.
Yes.
But I'm curious to learn more about the specifics of those efforts.
Well, you're right. Language is so much more than just a way to communicate.
It's how we express ourselves.
Exactly. It's a reflection of our history, our culture, our way of seeing the world. And in Saudi Arabia, there's a deep understanding of this.
That the language is precious.
Yes, they know that to lose the language would be to lose a part of themselves.
So it's not just about being able to speak it. It's about preserving a way of thinking,
Right.
a way of being.
Exactly. And they're taking this really multifaceted approach to protect it.
I'm curious to hear more.
Well, for example, they have language academies that are entirely focused on studying and preserving classical Arabic.
Wow.
They research its history, document its different dialects, and develop standardized grammar and vocabulary.
Like they're creating this living encyclopedia of the language.
Yes, exactly. And then, of course, there's education. Arabic language instruction is mandatory in schools from a young age.
So the younger generation grows up speaking it fluently.
Exactly. It becomes ingrained in them. And alongside these traditional approaches, there's this growing movement to use technology to help preserve the language.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have immediately thought of technology as a way to protect a language.
Yeah.
How are they using it?
Well, for one thing, there's been this explosion of Arabic language learning apps and online platforms.
So anyone anywhere can learn Arabic.
Exactly. And it's not just for beginners. There are resources for people of all levels. And then you have digital dictionaries and online databases of the language.
That's really smart.
Yes. It's all about making the language accessible and keeping it relevant in today's world.
It's impressive how they're blending tradition and technology to achieve that.
It is. It's a testament to their commitment to their cultural heritage. And it reminds us that cultural heritage isn't static. It can evolve and adapt.
It's a living, breathing thing.
Exactly. And speaking of living, breathing things, let's shift gears and talk about Saudi cuisine.
Oh, yes, I'm ready for this.
Because food is one of the best ways to experience a culture.
Absolutely. It's a sensory adventure.
It is. You get to taste the history, the traditions, the values of a place.
And Saudi cuisine sounds like it has so much to offer.
It does. It blends influences from the Middle East, Asia, and Africa.
Wow. A real melting pot of flavors. I'm excited to hear more.
Well, no exploration of Saudi cuisine would be complete without trying kabsa.
Kabsa, I've heard of that.
It's considered the national dish, and for good reason. It's this fragrant rice dish, usually made with basmati rice and a blend of aromatic spices.
And meat, I'm assuming.
Yes, you can have it with meat or chicken. It's often cooked in a large pot over an open fire, which gives it this incredible smoky flavor.
Oh, wow. It sounds delicious.
It is. Another dish you should try is salig.
Salig.
It's a creamy rice porridge that's usually served with tender, slow-cooked lamb or chicken.
It sounds so comforting.
It is. It's perfect for a cold day or a special occasion.
Definitely adding that to my list.
And of course, we can't forget about shawarma.
Oh, shawarma. Who doesn't love shawarma?
It's a classic street food. It's made with thinly sliced meat that's been marinated and roasted on a rotating spit.
So flavorful.
And then it's wrapped in pita bread with toppings like hummus tahini sauce, pickled vegetables.
The perfect combination of flavors and textures.
It is. And for those who like something sweet, there's a whole world of desserts to explore.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. What are some of the must-try desserts?
Well, one that you'll love is lukumat.
Lukumat.
They're these small golden brown dumplings that are deep fried and then drizzled with a sweet, sticky syrup.
It sounds heavenly. What kind of syrup?
It's usually made from dates or honey.
Oh, wow.
They're crispy on the outside, soft and chewy on the inside.
I can't wait to try those. What else is there?
Another popular choice is kunafa.
Kunafa.
It's a rich pastry made with shredded phyllo dough sweet cheese and a sugar syrup.
It sounds decadent.
It is. It's the perfect dessert to share with friends and family.
It sounds like exploring a culture through its cuisine is an amazing experience.
It is.
You get to understand a place through its flavors and aromas.
And in Saudi Arabia, that journey is filled with so much variety and richness.
So much to discover.
Exactly.
It reminds us that food is more than just sustenance.
It's a way of connecting with people and sharing stories.
Absolutely. Speaking of connection, let's talk about the role of family and community in Saudi Arabia.
That's a great topic. When you're trying to understand a culture, you have to look at the social fabric that holds it together.
The foundation.
Exactly.
Right.
And in Saudi Arabia, family and community are at the core of everything.
So it's not just about blood ties.
Right. It's about a deeper sense of belonging and responsibility.
A shared identity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Family is considered the cornerstone of their society.
So those values of respect for elders, strong family bonds, a sense of collective identity, they're all deeply ingrained.
Absolutely. And this focus on family goes beyond the immediate household.
Extended family is important too.
Very important. Extended families often live near each other.
So there's a strong support system.
Exactly. And there's this beautiful tradition of hospitality and generosity
Towards everyone.
towards both family and guests. Visitors to Saudi Arabia often talk about the incredible hospitality.
I've heard that.
Whether it's being invited for a meal, offered a cup of Arabic coffee, or simply greeted with a warm smile.
It sounds so welcoming. It's like a reminder that human connection still matters.
It does. And this sense of community extends beyond family. There's a strong emphasis on helping those in need.
Whether it's through charity or simply lending a hand to a neighbor.
Exactly. It's about supporting each other through thick and thin.
It creates this beautiful sense of unity.
It does. It makes people feel safe and connected.
It's a powerful thing to witness. It reminds us that we all need each other and that building strong communities is essential.
I agree. And as we delve deeper into Saudi culture, let's keep this in mind.
The power of connection.
The power of family and community.
It's a reminder that in a world that can sometimes feel individualistic and competitive, there are still cultures that prioritize collaboration, compassion, and the collective good.
Well said. And speaking of collaboration, let's talk about the role of women in Saudi Arabia.
That's an important topic. As we try to understand a culture, we need to look at the experiences of all its members.
Absolutely. And in recent years, Saudi Arabia has seen some remarkable changes in terms of women's rights and opportunities.
It's been inspiring to see.
It has. And these changes are happening across all areas, from education and employment to politics and social life.
So it's a real shift.
It is. It's not just about changing laws, it's about changing mindsets.
Creating a culture where women can truly thrive.
Exactly. And we're seeing real progress. For example, there's been a huge increase in the number of women pursuing higher education.
That's fantastic.
It is women now represent the majority of university graduates in Saudi Arabia.
Wow. That's amazing.
And this is opening up more opportunities for women in the workforce.
They're entering fields that were once dominated by men.
Exactly. Fields like medicine, engineering, and business.
I can see how that would inspire younger generations of women to dream big.
It does. And it's not just about professional success. Women are also becoming more active in public life.
Participating in community initiatives.
Yes. And engaging in political discussions.
It's like they're finding their voice and making themselves heard.
Exactly. And while there's still work to be done, these changes are a sign of a society that's committed to creating a more inclusive and equitable future.
For everyone.
For everyone. It's a journey, but they're moving in the right direction.
It's a reminder that progress takes time and effort and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
Well said. And as we continue exploring Saudi culture, let's celebrate the achievements of women.
Yes.
Acknowledge the challenges they face.
And support their journey towards equality and empowerment.
Absolutely, because building a just and equitable society requires the contributions of everyone.
Regardless of gender.
Exactly. And speaking of contributions, let's turn our attention to the role of technology and innovation in Saudi Arabia.
That's a great point. In today's world, technology has such a huge impact on culture. It connects people. It drives progress.
And in Saudi Arabia, they're really embracing technology and innovation.
As tools for development?
Yes, both social and economic development.
I've heard about some of their ambitious initiatives, especially in areas like artificial intelligence, renewable energy, and smart cities.
They're really pushing the boundaries. They understand that technology has the power to change lives and create a better future.
So it's not just about having the latest gadgets. It's about using technology to solve real problems.
Exactly. For example, in the field of artificial intelligence, they're developing solutions for healthcare, education, transportation.
Wow.
They're aiming to make things more efficient, accessible, and improve the quality of life for everyone.
That's amazing.
And in the field of renewable energy, they're working hard to diversify their energy sources and reduce their reliance on fossil fuels.
It's a necessary step for a sustainable future.
It is. And Saudi Arabia has so much potential for solar energy with all that sunshine.
They're taking advantage of it.
They are. They've set some ambitious goals, and there are a lot of large-scale solar projects already underway.
It's inspiring to see a country taking such a proactive approach.
And when it comes to smart cities, they're focused on creating more efficient, livable, and sustainable urban environments.
I've heard about smart cities. It's all about using technology to optimize urban infrastructure.
Exactly. They're designed to be more efficient with energy consumption, transportation, and waste management.
So they're thinking about the bigger picture.
They are.
Yeah.
And they also aim to improve public safety and create more livable urban spaces.
It sounds like a vision of the future where technology works for the benefit of everyone.
That's the goal. And while there are always challenges in implementing these kinds of initiatives, the commitment to progress is clear.
I agree. It's a reminder that technology can be a powerful tool for good.
It can. And speaking of change, let's talk about the social and cultural reforms that have been happening in Saudi Arabia.
Right. It's an important part of understanding the evolution of a culture.
It is. And in Saudi Arabia, there's a palpable sense of transformation happening.
I've noticed that too.
It's driven by a desire to create a more open, vibrant, and inclusive society.
And it's inspiring to see.
These reforms are touching on so many areas.
From social customs and entertainment to women's rights and religious freedom.
It's about addressing cultural norms and creating a more tolerant and progressive society.
So it's not just about superficial changes.
No, these are deep-rooted shifts. For example, in the area of entertainment, there's been a relaxation of restrictions on things like music concerts, cinemas, and other forms of public entertainment.
That must have made a big difference.
It has. It's allowed people to express themselves more freely to enjoy a wider range of activities.
It's about giving people more choices.
Exactly. And in the area of women's rights, there have been some significant legal and social reforms.
Like lifting the ban on women driving.
Yes. And easing guardianship laws that used to restrict women's freedom.
These are huge steps forward.
They are. These changes are empowering women and creating a more equitable environment for everyone.
It shows a commitment to progress.
And in the area of religious freedom, there's been a movement towards greater tolerance and acceptance.
That's so important for a harmonious society.
It is. And while there are always challenges in implementing these kinds of reforms, the intention is clear.
To create a more open and tolerant society.
Exactly. And as we continue exploring Saudi culture, let's keep this in mind.
That cultures are constantly evolving.
Yes. They're dynamic and they adapt to the changing needs of their people.
And speaking of adapting, let's talk about the role of sports and fitness in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Because sports and fitness are so important for our well-being.
They are, both physically and mentally.
And they bring people together.
And in Saudi Arabia, there's this growing passion for sports and fitness.
I've noticed that.
It's fueled by government initiatives, private investments, and a genuine desire to promote a healthier lifestyle.
And it's not just about participating, it's about watching, too.
Right? Absolutely. I've been following the rise of Saudi athletes in international competitions.
Me too. Especially in the football, athletics, and motorsports.
They're really making a name for themselves.
And inspiring a new generation of athletes.
Exactly. It's a reminder that sports have this power to connect people from all over the world.
No matter what language you speak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And beyond professional sports, there's also a big push to encourage everyday people to get active.
At a grassroots level.
Yes. The government is investing in new sports facilities, organizing community fitness events, and promoting physical education in schools.
So they're creating a culture of health and fitness.
They are. And it's not just about the physical benefits.
There are social benefits, too.
Absolutely. It fosters teamwork, discipline, a sense of community.
It's about building a stronger society.
Exactly. And as we continue exploring Saudi culture, let's keep in mind the important role that sports and fitness play.
In shaping a healthier, more active, and more vibrant society.
Well said. And speaking of vibrancy, let's talk about art and creativity in Saudi Arabia.
Oh yes, art is such a powerful form of expression.
It is. It's a universal language that transcends borders.
And in Saudi Arabia, there's this burgeoning art scene that's really exciting.
It is. There's this energy and momentum fueled by a growing appreciation for art and a desire to foster creativity.
So they're creating a space for artists to thrive.
Exactly. And the art being produced is so diverse. From traditional calligraphy to contemporary paintings, sculpture, digital art.
It sounds like a reflection of the country's history and its openness to new ideas.
It is. And the themes explored in Saudi art often touch on issues of identity, social change, globalization, the human condition.
It gives us a glimpse into what people are thinking and feeling.
Exactly, and it sparks important conversations.
And beyond visual art, there's also a thriving performing arts scene.
Oh yes, theater, music, dance, film.
So many ways to express oneself.
And these performances often draw inspiration from Saudi folklore history and contemporary life.
It's about keeping those traditions alive while also creating something new.
Exactly. It's a beautiful tapestry of artistic expression.
And it reminds us that art is more than just something pretty to look at.
It's about telling stories, exploring ideas, connecting with each other.
And as we continue our exploration of Saudi culture, let's keep in mind the power of art.
To inspire us, to challenge us, to connect us.
It reminds us of the beauty and the complexity of being human.
And speaking of being human, let's delve into the realm of spirituality and faith.
That's a great transition. Because our beliefs and values, they really shape who we are.
They do. And in Saudi Arabia, Islam plays a central role in shaping their culture.
I've always been fascinated by the diversity of religions around the world. And I'm eager to learn more about Islam's role in Saudi society.
Well, in Saudi Arabia, Islam is more than just a religion. It's a way of life.
It influences everything.
It does. From the legal system and social customs to architecture, daily routines.
So it's woven into the fabric of their lives.
It is. And one of the core beliefs of Islam is the belief in the oneness of God.
Allah.
Yes, Allah. And the importance of submitting to his will.
That idea of surrendering to a higher power resonates with a lot of different faiths.
It does. And another core belief is the importance of following the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad.
Who's considered the final messenger of God.
Yes. And these beliefs, they provide a framework for how people live their lives.
For ethical conduct, social interactions, personal growth.
Exactly. And you see these beliefs reflected in everyday life.
From the 5 daily prayers
to the observance of Ramadan.
to the principles of modesty in dress and behavior.
Yes. It creates a sense of structure and rhythm.
A connection to something bigger than themselves.
Exactly. And beyond these individual practices, Islam also emphasizes community and social responsibility.
Helping those in need.
Yes. Treating others with kindness and respect, striving for justice and peace.
It's a reminder that faith can be a powerful force for good in the world.
It can. And while there's diversity within Islam, just like any religion,
Of course.
these core principles and values provide a foundation for many Saudis.
It gives them a sense of meaning and purpose.
It does. And as we explore Saudi culture, let's keep this in mind.
The power of faith.
The role it plays in shaping values and inspiring actions.
It's a reminder that even in a modern world, Spirituality still holds deep meaning for many people.
It does. And speaking of connection, let's turn our attention to the world of trade and commerce.
Trade has always been this incredible force for connecting cultures.
It has. It brings people together from different parts of the world.
It allows us to share ideas, goods, traditions.
And in Saudi Arabia, trade has played a huge role in shaping its history and culture for centuries.
Well, they're located at the crossroads of 3 continents.
Exactly. That strategic location has made it a hub for trade since ancient times.
I've always been fascinated by those ancient trade routes that pass through Arabia.
Like the incense route.
The incense route.
Yes. It connected the Mediterranean world with India and beyond.
It's amazing to think about those caravans traveling across vast distances.
It is. And the goods they carried, frankincense, myrrh, spices, textiles.
It must have been an incredible sight.
It was, and these goods brought wealth and cultural influence to the region.
It shows how interconnected the world was even back then.
And that legacy of trade is still visible in Saudi Arabia today.
In its cosmopolitan cities, its diverse cuisine.
Exactly. And in its openness to international trade and investment.
So it's part of their DNA.
It is. And in modern times, Saudi Arabia has become a major player in the global economy.
Especially in the energy sector.
Of course, Saudi Arabia is known for its vast oil reserves.
Which have shaped the global energy landscape.
Exactly. And while they're working to diversify their economy, oil continues to be a major export.
And a source of wealth.
Yes. But beyond oil, Saudi Arabia is also looking to expand its trade relationships with other countries.
To diversify their economy.
Exactly. They're investing in infrastructure and promoting tourism.
It's about building connections and fostering collaboration.
It is. And these efforts are creating new opportunities for people all over the world.
To connect and learn from each other.
Exactly. It's a reminder that trade is about more than just buying and selling.
It's about building relationships and understanding.
And creating a more interconnected world.
Absolutely. And as we continue our exploration of Saudi culture, let's keep this in mind.
The importance of trade and its impact on shaping Saudi Arabia.
Both in the past and the present.
And speaking of the future, let's shift our attention to Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030.
That's a perfect transition. Vision 2030 is their ambitious roadmap for the future, right?
Exactly. It's a plan to reduce their dependence on oil, diversify their economy, and create a more dynamic society.
I've been reading about it. It's fascinating.
It is. It includes investments in education, technology, tourism, infrastructure.
It's a comprehensive plan.
It touches on almost every aspect of life in Saudi Arabia.
It sounds like they're really committed to creating a brighter future.
They are. They're thinking long-term. And one of the key pillars of Vision 2030 is empowering youth.
Investing in the next generation.
Exactly. They're creating opportunities for young people to thrive.
It's a smart move. Young people are the future.
They are. Vision 2030 includes initiatives to improve education, foster entrepreneurship, and create jobs specifically for young Saudis.
So it's about equipping them with the tools they need to succeed.
Exactly. And it's not just about economic empowerment, it's also about promoting cultural openness and tolerance.
That's so important in today's world.
It is. Vision 2030 includes initiatives to foster interfaith dialogue, promote cultural exchange, and showcase the beauty of Saudi culture to the world.
It's about breaking down barriers and building bridges.
Exactly. And this commitment to cultural openness is reflected in their ambitious plans to develop Saudi Arabia as a global tourist destination.
I've seen those plans. They're incredible.
They are. The futuristic city of Neo, the transformation of Al-Ula into a cultural heritage site.
It's like something out of a movie.
It's breathtaking. And these projects are about more than just attracting tourists.
They're showcasing Saudi Arabia's history and its natural beauty.
And its hospitality. They're inviting the world to come and experience it for themselves.
Wow. What a journey this has been. We've covered so much ground.
We have.
From the ancient wonders to the modern-day transformations, it's clear that Saudi Arabia is a complex and fascinating country.
It is. It's a place where tradition and modernity coexist.
Where the past informs the present.
And where the future holds so much promise.
And for anyone listening, I think the biggest takeaway is this. Don't let preconceived notions limit your understanding of a place.
Right.
Dig deeper. Explore the nuances. Embrace the complexities.
Because that's where you'll find the true heart of a culture.
Absolutely. And until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those curious minds engaged.
I can't wait. It is. And they're really focusing on creating a brighter future for the next generation.
And that makes sense. It's smart to recognize the power of young people.
Right. They're the future of any nation. Investing in their education and well-being is so important for the country's success.
Absolutely. And Vision 2030 actually includes specific initiatives to improve education, help young Saudis start businesses, and create jobs just for them.
That's fantastic. It's about giving them the tools they need to build a good life.
Right. It's about setting them up for success.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the economy, is it?
No, Vision 2030 is also focused on promoting a more open and tolerant society.
Which is so important in today's world,
Mm.
with all the different cultures and viewpoints out there.
Exactly. Understanding and respecting each other is crucial.
For sure.
So Vision 2030 has initiatives to encourage dialogue between different faiths and to promote cultural exchange.
To share ideas and experiences.
Exactly. It's about showing the world the richness and diversity of Saudi culture.
It's like an invitation to see them in a new light.
Exactly. And this focus on cultural openness is a big part of their plan to become a global tourist destination.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that. I've seen those plans, and they're so impressive. It's like they're creating the future.
They are. It's pretty amazing.
That futuristic megacity EOM on the Red Sea, the transformation of Al-Ula into a world-class heritage site. It's incredible.
It's mind-blowing, and it's not just about attracting tourists and creating jobs. It's about showcasing Saudi Arabia's history, its natural beauty.
It's about sharing their story with the world.
Exactly. It's a new chapter for Saudi Arabia. They're ready to welcome the world and show them what they're all about.
It's been such an amazing journey exploring all of this with you. From those ancient cities and traditions to the changes happening today and their vision for tomorrow. It's clear that Saudi Arabia is full of surprises.
It is. There's so much more to it than meets the eye.
Absolutely. So to anyone listening out there, don't let the headlines be your only guide.
Right.
Dig a little deeper. Ask questions. Embrace the complexity.
Because that's how you discover the real heart of a culture.
That's what these deep dives are all about. And until our next one, keep exploring and keep those curious minds engaged.